Hi, and welcome back to another lecture with Coding with Eric. Today we'll be discussing the difference between front-end, back-end, and full-stack developers. What are the advantages of being a front-end, back-end, or full-stack developer? As well as what is the disadvantages of being a front-end, back-end, and full-stack developer? Well, let's start with asking ourselves, how does the web work? And before we start, let's click the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Well, you have a client PC, which is your computer, as well as a server that's located somewhere else. When you open up your browser and you go to www.whateverwebsite.com, your browser or computer changes the website into an IP address, which is a sequence of numbers. Those sequence of numbers are sent to the server. The server then locates those sequence of numbers to find the data you are looking for and returns it back to the client as packets of data. Let's look at it a little bit more broad. Your computer will reach out to the server with the IP address. Your internet service provider links your IP address to the server through wires. The server will then return website data through packets back to your computer. However, website data may be very big, so the server might send multiple packets of data back to your computer. Development that happens in your browser is known as the front end, as development that happens on the server side is known as the back end. So let's investigate the front end and see what the front end is all about. The front end actually uses many different types of languages and technologies. It uses HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Those three languages are your bread and butter as a front end developer. It also uses CSS preprocessors like Sass that make CSS easier. There are many JavaScript libraries. There are many JavaScript frameworks. The top three are React, Vue, and Angular. Yes, React is actually a library, but for this example, we'll keep it in the framework section. And you'll also have to know a lot of web development build tools like Node Package Manager. As a front-end developer, you'll be dealing with the user interfaces, which is what the user is going to be interacting with. You'll be creating user experiences, which is a satisfaction of the user using your application. You'll be dealing with the form and input validation on the UI side, which is very important for the user experience, as the final data validation layer is on the back end. You'll be creating password asterisks and pop-up, holding the user session and cookies, and also dealing with API requests. You will not work on user authentication, dealing with JWT and encryption of password, server security, databases SQL and NoSQL, so dealing with retrieving and storing data, or dealing with heavy performance applications like machine learning. Well, let's now look at backend development. As a backend developer, you'll be doing all your development on the server side. So you'll be handling server-side languages like Python, Java, Node.js, and PHP. You'll be handling server-side frameworks like Django for Python, Spring for Java, and Express for Node. You'll be dealing with retrieving and storing data from databases using SQL and NoSQL, as well as handling build tools for the backend. An example of that would be Maven. A backend developer is going to be dealing with the business logic, widely distributed notifications, the final layer of data validation, storing and retrieving data from databases, dealing with scheduled processes involving specific time and day, API responses, and authentication. You will not be working on the user interfaces. You will not be dealing with advanced CSS and client rendering, and API requests on the front end. So what is a full stack developer? Well, when the front end and back end combine into one, it is known as a full stack developer. The full stack developer will handle front end languages like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They'll also deal with the back end, so the server side languages, Python, Java, Node.js, PHP. They'll deal with all frameworks, all libraries. They'll deal with the databases, so retrieving and storing data all the way up to the front end to display it, as well as build tools for both the front end and back end, so Node Package Manager and Maven. As a full stack developer, you'll work on the user interface and the user experience. You'll deal with backend logic as authentication, retrieving and storing data, security for the front end and back end, API requests and responses, data validation for the front end and back end, as well as password encryption and user sessions. You will not work on complex user interfaces, complex user experiences, and always trying to make everything 100% perfect. So that brings us to which is best? Well, front-end is easy setup, rapidly increasing in popularity with UI and UX importance increasing, and new libraries and frameworks are always being released. Backend is a little harder setup than front-end. Its popularity is increasing due to APIs and microservice development, and all dynamic web applications and most software need a functioning backend. Fullstack is great for small companies and startups. It has rapid development, and typically as a full stack, you have a strong understanding of the entire stack of a software, but a master in no specific area. I hope this video helped clear up your confusion with what is the difference between a front-end, back-end, and full-stack developer.